You know, in our totally connected world, the journey of a single product can literally stretch across continents. But with that global reach comes a whole lot of global responsibility. So today we're going to dive into how businesses can navigate the really tricky ethical waters of their supply chains. And we'll be using the OECD's due diligence guidance as our compass.
Okay, let's make this personal for a second. That smartphone in your pocket, the coffee you might be drinking right now, the t-shirt you're wearing, they're all the final stop on a long, winding global journey. But what if that journey has a dark side? What if there are hidden costs that we don't even know we're supporting?
Because we're not talking about abstract ideas here. We're talking about very real, what the experts call adverse impacts. Things like child labor, polluted rivers, dangerous factories, forced labor, and discrimination. These are the kinds of hidden threads that can get woven into the fabric of our global economy. And all of this creates this huge ripple effect. It's honestly one of the biggest challenges for companies today. And you might ask why? Well, it's because a company's real-world impact doesn't just stop when you buy their product. Not even close. A company's responsibility actually stretches all the way out to its suppliers, its partners, its entire network. And let's be real, in an age where everyone wants transparency, ignoring this stuff isn't just bad for people and the planet. It's a massive legal, financial, and reputational risk for the business itself.
So how in the world does a company navigate these, treacherous waters? I mean, how can they even start to get a handle on such a complicated web of connections? Thankfully, there's a tool for that. There's a compass.
And that compass is the OECD's framework for responsible business. At the heart of it is this concept you see right here: due diligence. Basically, it's a proactive process. It's about companies getting out there to identify, prevent, and fix any negative impacts they might be connected to. It's about being a good corporate citizen, not just putting out fires.
Now this is a really important shift in mindset. You see, traditional risk management is all about asking, what are the risks to us, to our bottom line? It's all inward-looking. Due diligence completely flips that question. It asks, what are the risks of our business causing harm to others? It's an outward-facing responsibility. Huge difference. So, you're probably wondering, how does this actually work? What does a company do? Well, the great thing about the OECD guidance is that it doesn't just point you in a direction, it gives you a practical 6-step map for the journey. And as you can see, it's a loop. It's a continuous cycle. You start by embedding policy, then you identify risks, you take action, you track how you're doing, you talk about it, and you provide remedies if something goes wrong. This is not a one-and-done checklist you can just tick off. It's a living, breathing process.
All right, let's start with step 1, embed. This is the foundation, the bedrock. It's about weaving this responsible mindset into the very DNA of the company, from the big policies made in the boardroom all the way down to the day-to-day procedures on the factory floor. Okay, next up, a company has to actively go looking for potential problems. Step 2 means taking a deep, honest dive into its own operations and its entire supply chain to figure out where things might be going wrong or where there's a risk they could in the future.
And this question is so important. It's not just about the harm a company directly causes. It's about looking at the whole picture. Could our buying practices be contributing to unsafe conditions somewhere else? Are we linked to a supplier with a bad record, even if they're 3 or 4 steps down the chain?
Step 3 is simple. Once you find a problem, you have to do something about it. It really is that straightforward. If your company is causing harm, you stop. If you see a potential risk, you take real steps to make sure it never happens. It's all about moving from knowing to doing.
And step 4 is where accountability comes in. I mean, how do you know if what you're doing is actually working? Are those new safety rules really being followed? Did changing suppliers actually cut down on pollution? This step is all about tracking your performance, measuring the impact, and, learning from what you find.
Being transparent is absolutely crucial here. Companies have to be open about what they're doing. And that means talking to customers, to investors, and especially to the communities that are affected, about the risks they've found and the steps they're taking to fix them.
And that brings us to the final step in the loop: remediate. So what happens when, even with the best intentions, harm has already happened? Well, if a company caused or even just contributed to that harm, it has a responsibility to help make things right. And that's really what remediation is all about. It's about making things right. It's the process of providing a remedy. Maybe that's money, maybe it's cleaning up a damaged environment, or maybe it's putting in new protection so it never happens again. It's about taking ownership.
So we've walked through all 6 steps, but I really need to stress this one point. This is so much more than just ticking boxes on some corporate responsibility report.
In fact, the guidance itself says it best. The due diligence process is not static, but ongoing, responsive, and changing. It talks about feedback loops, about learning what worked and what didn't. In other words, this is a living, evolving process. It's about constantly learning and adapting.
So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Being a responsible business isn't a final exam you can pass. It's not a destination you arrive at. It's a continuous journey. It's about constantly checking that compass, adjusting your course, and always trying to navigate with integrity.
And this really leaves us with one last thought. As the world demands more and more accountability, this kind of due diligence isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. It is quickly becoming the standard for how to do business, period. So the real question is, how will the companies that you support choose to navigate their impact on the world?